Welcome to 2-on-1 with Mike and Mike. I'm your host, Michael Vetrano, along with my partner in crime, Michael Torriero. Our next guest is the pride of Santa Rosa, California, the pride of Menlo, California, and a former head coach of Beat the Streets New York and Beat the Streets Boston. That's Jacque Davis. How are you?
Hello. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Great to see you.
It's great to have you on. We have a number of things that we want to talk to you about, but kind of, obviously, you were all state in California, you were an All-American in college. How did those experiences prepare you to you've held many positions, but first off to run and help start a club, Beat the Streets New York, and then, finally to Boston and Providence. How did that prepare you?
Well, so actually my connection to Beat the Streets New York was, I had two really awesome college coaches. One was Lee Allen, who's the late Lee Allen, who's incredible. Was a two-time Olympian in freestyle and Greco. One of the few, maybe the only to do that. And then Marcy Van Duzen was my later coach. And she was actually the one that connected me to Beat the Streets. Because I had my own difficult upbringing, and I had kind of expressed these things with her and talked with her. So she thought that the Beat the Streets mission was one that would resonate with me. And turns out she was right now, a decade later, and I'm still trying to find ways to stay involved with it. So I think wrestling was, having to be able to navigate different situations and like immediately think on the fly, whether it's offensively or defensively, on the mat or off the mat, like preparing yourself. Those are all things that help in these jobs. But I also am just really grateful for the mentors who guided me to it, because I would have never found it otherwise.
That's fantastic. Jacque, real quick, when you talk about preparing, what was harder? Was it, obviously you were a top level athlete and you coach at, at the high level. What was kind of more difficult, and challenging? Was it, getting ready for that All-American match in college, or that medal round in the state tournament in high school, or, coaching some of the girls that you, work with and then finally, and competed?
Coaching is so much harder. Coaching is so much harder. Like hands down, so much harder. It's, I was just talking about this, that like, I had really only had male coaches my entire career until my junior, like the summer between my junior and senior year in college. And that was when I got Marcy, which was a big learning curve for me, because I think I had been taught from a perspective, Mike and I have talked about this offline, but like taught from the perspective of maybe a male going through the sport, which is a little bit different. And then I really internalized a lot of those things. And I think, I internalized a lot of that. And then when I went to coaching, it was almost like I was just copying what I had already been taught, but that doesn't work for everybody. And probably, I actually don't even think it always worked for me. So I've had to like relearn that every person is an individual, that there's no blanket approach to coaching anybody. And that some of the things that inspire me are not the same things that inspire other girls or other boys. So coaching is so hard because every kid is different.
Yeah, it's so much more difficult. It's, I kind of prepared for the answer. It's you live and die with every match when you're coaching. I know, Michael, you had a number of questions you want to talk about. So.
Yeah, Jacque, we know each other for quite a long time. You know how much I respect you and everything that you've done, and it's remarkable. You've had 47 All-Americans, out of New York. I don't know how many countless between Providence and Boston. You've melded those two cities into one Beat the Streets organization. You've built an incredible foundation in New York, up in New England. And, it's not just your experience that you have, but the success that you've had along with your experience. So now, we understand that you've gone to Baltimore, you've lit fires and built things in, parts of the country, that people would only dream to be able to do in one place. You're doing in a number of places. So right now I understand that you've taken all of this and you're kind of going into the route of starting your own organization to kind of take everything and roll it into one and be a little bit more specific and trying to grow women's wrestling and sport in general. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing in Baltimore right now?
Yeah, well, first I shout out Baltimore because it's the furthest city south that I've lived in on the East Coast. And as a California girl, I need me some warmth. So even though it's not
And some crabs too, Maryland
Yeah.
crabs.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I took my mom to a place around the corner and she went to town. Everyone there was calling her crab mama by the end of the night. But side story. So yeah, so this is the first time since 2013 that I haven't actually been a full-time employee of Beat the Streets of any organization. So I was in New York, I was in Boston, I was in Providence, and I had the intention of working. I really wanted to transition to being with Beat the Streets Baltimore when I was making this shift. And it happened to be that I was making this shift. I knew I was making it before COVID hit and then was actually making it while COVID happened. So it just wasn't possible. You know, Beat the Streets Baltimore, the structure of it was it was hit pretty hard due to COVID. So this kind of thought process actually came from being on the phone with Mike, being like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I love Beat the Streets. How do I stay involved? And he was kind of like, you should start your own thing. I'm like, oh yeah, because that's really easy. And that's why people do it all the time. And, but then the more I thought about it, I kind of started thinking like, there are so many organizations, for profit or nonprofit, you know, private clubs or colleges or, you know, boys and girls clubs or whatever, that really don't have the capacity to maybe have a full-time employee like me. Beat the Streets Baltimore is a good example. But they might have the capacity to bring in somebody who can do projects for them that really make a huge difference in their organization. So I started a company called Shape the Game. And by company, it's me, but it's a consulting.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Heck yeah.
It's a consultancy specifically for sports-based youth development. Really just like the intent. I'll start in wrestling. I want to always be in wrestling. I want to help wrestling, but I also think that we need to restructure how we deliver sport to kids at all ages, and like recenter it back around human development, cognitive, social, emotional, physiological, etc. So it's really focusing on that.
So if we wanted to, if somebody's at home and, you know, we just had Coach Corcoran on, he's a great guy. He's looking to, you know, develop
Huge
his
supporter of
program.
yours, huge fan of yours, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
I was just gonna say I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah, huge fan. Yeah.
But you know, let's say that Mike and I have a reach, and there's some people from around the country that are looking to, you know, get some insight and just, you know, have some talking points with you on a program they're looking to develop, whether it be wrestling or something else. How would they go about finding your website, and how would they go about emailing you to be able to get in touch with you, or your social media handles? Can you give us that?
Yeah, so you're catching me at ground, you know, the infancy of this. So everything got finalized.
Perfect timing. That's the right time to,
I know,
to
yeah, you catch me at the beginning. Everything got finalized right before the holidays. So I have a website. It's shapethegame.org. I have an email that's my name, Jacque, JACQUE @shapethegame.org. And I have my personal social media accounts. Don't have any Shape the Game social media accounts. And my personal one is maybe hard to follow. It's 32 JAX 23. So, you know, that's a personal one, not necessarily business, but if you feel like following or DMing me and kind of seeing some projects that I'm currently working on, you can follow on there. They're putting a lot of stuff up I'm working with the British Wrestling Association. I'm working with D1 Women's Wrestling on things. So you can see some progress on current projects.
That's fantastic. Not to make you miss New York more, but just know that you're super revered, you know, in New York, and obviously probably in Boston and Providence. We keep hearing about stories about a dinner in Fargo and kind of an emotional time. So you're certainly revered. You know, we talk about structure and growth. You've held the state chair in New York, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. How did that help you in terms of management and growth? How do you think that's going to help you position, you know, what you're doing for your firm, your company, your startup?
You know, I think that I've been at, maybe this is a twofold answer. I feel like I've been in states where it was maybe the right time. And so I had people advocating for me, a lot of really awesome individuals, men who were on the board in New York who were advocating for putting a female in that role. And then not just like putting me there, but training me through this process, like really preparing me, right? Just because I'm a female doesn't mean I'm the right person for it. So they really helped, I don't know, mentor me, which was awesome. And then the same kind of thing happened in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Rhode Island had actually never had a women's director before. So when I mentioned it, they were like, sounds good, maybe we should do that. But again, I had so many really incredible people who had already been in this community who helped mentor me and teach me, because I was new. So it doesn't necessarily mean that I was the best for it. So I guess how it's helped me right now is it taught me to ask lots of questions, to really respect the work that's previously been done. You know, coming in with a bunch of brand new ideas, it doesn't always mesh right. Like people may have tried those before. And so really like ask the community, get to know these individuals, accept as much help as possible, find mentors that have already been there, and like just respect the work that's already been done. And I think that that would be helpful with my current company, because I want to be able to help organizations that they're not brand new, they pre-exist. There's so many people who've done incredible work. I just want to help elevate and take it to the next step.
Well, I mean, I believe that you're going to be successful. You've been successful at everything you've done. You know, one last question before I let you go. I asked Coach Corcoran, back to wrestling for a second. We only have about another minute to go. What do you think in terms of the current state of girls and women's wrestling, right? So there's half of the state tournaments in the country on the girls level are sanctioned, half aren't approximately. Do you think that, you know, first of all, do you want them all sanctioned? And second of all, do you think they should be folk style or freestyle? Because it's kind of bifurcated, right? Some are folk style, some are freestyle. What's your position on that?
You guys prepared to be here for the next 2 hours? Because I could talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lab question, okay? I mean, obviously.
Oh my gosh, I have so many feelings. You're hearing me in all the feelings.
Yeah.
So first, it would be fantastic if every high school girls program was freestyle. But that's not really possible. We don't have the capacity right now. We don't have enough individuals who have wrestled it, who feel comfortable coaching it. We don't have referees who understand how to referee it. It's if the battle is between let's get women's wrestling at the high school level sanctioned or let's get it sanctioned freestyle, then I'm going to say let's get it sanctioned and let's do that.
Makes sense. Makes
and
sense.
Make girls, or not make girls, but encourage girls to train all styles, freestyle, folk style, and Greco, because everything makes you better in the other areas. And then, yeah, I guess that answers the sanction question. Of course, I would love for every girl to have the opportunity to represent her high school at a sanctioned championship event, get one of those banners that goes into their gyms, you know, like be able to go back at reunions and point at the wall and say that they're a part of herstory, right? And I think that should also trickle over into college. And so I've been working a lot with the D1 Women's Wrestling Initiative, because we have 87 women's colleges that have colleges that have women's wrestling programs, but only 2 of them are D1. So
we just had Coach Clark from Sacred Heart on a few days ago. I know that they've started a women's program. So
he's incredible. I love him.
He was fantastic. Look, we're super behind you. We'd love to have you back maybe in a couple months and kind of tell us what your journey's been. But that's Jacque Davis. We wish you luck. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks, Jacque.